The German Intercity Express is one of the fastest trains in the world, renowned for its comfort, luxury and safety. Until it careers off the track and crashes at 200 kilometers per hour. 101 people perish in 180 seconds. It's the worst high-speed train crash ever. Now, with advanced computer technology, we reveal exactly what went wrong. Disasters don't just happen. They're a chain of critical events. Unravel the fateful decisions in those final seconds from disaster. Europe, Germany, Munich. 3rd of June, 1998. 5:45 a.m. Passengers board the 800-seater Intercity Express. ICE 884 will make 7 stops on an 850-kilometer journey before reaching Hamburg, a popular destination because of its connections to business centers and seaside holiday resorts. 5:47 a.m. ICE 884 departs Munich, 12 luxury coaches carrying more than 400 passengers. The Intercity Express is fast, capable of traveling at 250 kilometers per hour. It boasts advanced safety features, including carriages made from strengthened aluminium and computerized onboard monitoring systems. In 7 years of service, there's never been a fatal accident. The second stop on ICE 884's journey is Nuremberg. Jörg Dittmann, his wife Sigrid, and their 6-year-old son Andre get on and take their seats in coach 1, right at the front of the train. They're going away to the seaside.
Well, it was the very first big holiday for my family. So we said, okay, let's have a stress-free break, without the car. Well, because on a train you're free to move around, which is a big advantage when traveling with children.
10:56 a.m. 5 hours into the journey. The 400 passengers on board ICE 884 are just 40 minutes from Hamburg, their final destination. So far, it's been an uneventful journey. But that is about to change.
The bang was just beyond any description. All I can compare it with is the moment when a supersonic jet thunders through the sound barrier. And this happens right next to your ear. And at that moment, a shard of metal came slicing through the armrest between my wife and my son.
The huge metal shard creates a gaping hole in the carriage floor.
I just said, get out, get out, get out of the compartment.
Raus, raus, raus aus dem Abteil.
Elsewhere in the train, passengers hear the bang, but they're unaware of what's happening in coach 1. 10:57 a.m. and the damaged ICE 884 is still speeding through the countryside at 200 kilometers per hour, with a huge shard of metal that smashed through the floor of coach 1, lodged between 2 seats. Jörg Dittmann takes immediate action. He leads his wife and son out of the damaged coach and sets off to alert the train crew to what he's just witnessed.
I found the train conductor in the 3rd coach. Getting there from coach 1 seemed to take forever. It felt like I had to run the length of the train. It took ages. It was terrible.
But the train conductor tells Jörg that, according to company rules, he must investigate the incident before he's authorized to activate the emergency brakes. Jörg leads him back to coach 1 to inspect the damage. It takes them 1 minute.
We came to the first coach where we'd been sitting, and I was just about to point to the spot and show him the damage. And that's when it happened.
At 200 kilometers per hour, ICE 884 derails and hurtles towards the road bridge. 10:59 a.m. Erika Karl and her husband Dieter hear the noise.
My husband said, "I think it's a plane crash." And then there was deathly silence, and not even the birds were singing.
Erika Karl inadvertently becomes the first person on the accident scene.
Our door has a glass pane, so we could see that a train was right by our front gate. Then I said to my husband, "There's an ICE lying outside."
More than 400 passengers are on the crashed ICE. Jörg Dittmann is back near his seat in coach 1 at the front of the train.
I looked at the train conductor lying on the floor, and he looked at me, his face covered in blood. So we stared at each other saying, "You okay?"
Remarkably, the train conductor, Jörg, and his family have only superficial wounds. They're able to walk away from the accident. 11:05, 6 minutes after the crash. As the emergency services arrive, the enormity of the disaster becomes apparent. First news pictures reveal that the double-lane 300-ton road bridge has totally collapsed. The devastation is breathtaking. Andreas Effinghausen is one of the first policemen on the scene.
I could see these railway carriages compacted into each other, bent and twisted upwards, 5-6 meters in the air, right up to the top of the embankment, and the entire concrete bridge had gone. It was lying on the ground. It was a scene of total devastation.
Eight of the ICE's coaches have concertinaed into an area little more than the length of a single carriage. Hundreds are still trapped in the wreckage. 11:25 a.m. Initial estimates put the number of casualties at 40 dead and 40 seriously injured. By 1:45 p.m., medical staff have given emergency treatment on site to 87 people. 27 of the most critically injured are airlifted to hospital. Rescue workers have no idea how many people are still trapped inside the train. But while there's the slightest hope of finding more survivors, the operation continues into the afternoon, evening, and night. During the night, the rescue teams discover the bodies of 2 railway workers in the wreckage. They'd been carrying out routine maintenance on the track when the train crashed. The death toll now climbs to 81. Over the next 48 hours, emergency services continue their desperate search, but no one else is found alive. At 6:42 a.m. on Saturday morning, almost 3 days after the crash, the rescue operation is called off. 101 people die, and 105 are injured in the world's worst high-speed train crash. The unthinkable has happened. The pride of German technology lies in ruins. The Intercity Express is one of the fastest, most luxurious trains in Europe, used by 65,000 passengers a day. In a matter of seconds, an unblemished safety record is shattered in a devastating accident. Now we rewind the events of that fateful day and go deep into the investigation to reveal what really happened. Advanced computer simulation will take us where no camera can go, into the heart of the disaster zone. The first clue comes not from the crash site, but from 6 kilometers back down the railway.
This evening it's emerged that investigators have found damaged rails nearly 3 miles up the line, where the actors there have found damage to rail track 6 kilometers.
Investigators found marks on and close to the track.
Could these damaged railway tracks 6 kilometers back from the accident site really be linked to the cause of the disaster? In Coach 1, investigators make a second discovery that could be related. They find a length of steel lodged in the floor of the carriage. What is it exactly, and where did it come from? Investigators now have to travel back to the final minutes leading up to the crash. The investigation team realized that the huge shard of metal which comes shooting into Jörg Dittmann's compartment is the same piece of metal later discovered lodged in the floor of Coach 1. But where did it come from? The compartment Jörg Dittmann is sitting in is directly over the rear wheels of Coach 1. Closer examination of the wheels leads to a breakthrough discovery. One of them is seriously damaged, and its steel rim has broken away. Investigators conclude the piece of metal stuck in the floor of Coach 1 is in fact the broken rim, which is separated from the wheel, smashing up through the carriage floor between Jörg Dittmann's wife and son. Robert Lauby is the Director of Safety with the US National Transport Safety Board at the time of the Eschede accident.
Part of the wheel that broke straightened out and it hung up directly under the car. In this position, the wheel was carried along as the train traveled down the track at 112 miles per hour.
And it's this unraveled wheel rim that scrapes along the track, sending sparks flying, causing the track damage almost 6 kilometers back from the accident site. But losing one wheel rim should not have caused the technically advanced ICE 884 to crash so catastrophically. And since the train travels another 6 kilometers before derailing, something else must have happened to turn a mechanical failure into a major disaster. The team now turn their attention to the area of track immediately before the Eschede road bridge. Here they find some crucial new evidence. Damage to the track indicates that 200 meters before the bridge, the train derails. But why does it derail here and not at the point where the wheel rim shatters 6 kilometers further back? The point where the train careers off the track is where the local branch line crosses the main line. There are two sets of points which can divert rail traffic from the main line to the branch line. To guide trains through these sets of points safely, there are also rail guides known as check rails. Investigators comb the track at the point of derailment. They make a crucial finding. One of the check rails, a length of steel, is missing. It's been completely torn away from the track. They need to find it. A detailed search of the crash site reveals nothing. But when investigators examine the inside of the wrecked train, they make another vital discovery. Damage to the compartment in which Jörg Dittmann was traveling indicates where the wheel rim unraveled, splitting the floor open and piercing the armrest. But only a few meters away in the corridor, investigators find something else. It's the missing check rail, which leaves these gaping holes in the floor and ceiling. With this discovery, they're now able to piece together more of the last moments of the train's journey. 3.6 seconds before the crash, on the approach to the Eschede road bridge, ICE 884 is still traveling at 200 kilometers per hour, with the wheel rim scraping along the track. As the train runs over the first set of points, the end of the rim scoops up the check rail, which smashes through the floor of Coach 1. It's this massive impact which causes two of the wheels at the rear of Coach 1 to derail. But investigators realize that although ICE 884 has derailed, this still isn't enough to cause the huge devastation of the Eschede accident. The investigation team return to the crash site to hunt for more clues. They examine the second set of points immediately before the bridge and make an extraordinary finding. There's evidence to suggest that after the points, ICE 884 actually starts traveling on two different sets of tracks, the main line and the branch line. How can this have happened? The team deduced that 1.44 seconds before the crash, as ICE 884 passes over the second set of points, one of the two derailed wheels of coach 1 smashes into them and forces them to open. This means that the carriages following coach 1 are now guided onto the wrong track, the local branch line rather than the main line. With the front power car still pulling at 200 kilometers per hour, but the coaches behind it slowing as they leave the main line and derail, the connection between the power car and the rest of the train tears apart. At this moment, emergency air brakes automatically deploy throughout the train. Jörg Dittmann and the train conductor in coach 1 are hurled through the air. Coach 1 is now straddling the main line, and coach 2 is heading off onto the branch line. But even this does not cause the final crash. 1.44 seconds before impact, ICE 884 is derailed, but essentially undamaged, and its emergency air brakes could bring the train to a controlled stop. But that is not what happens. And what's more, the compact nature of the wreckage indicates to investigators that this is a particularly violent accident. They now scour the crash site for clues to shed light on how a train 410 meters long can have been compressed into an area the length of a single carriage. They examine the remains of the Eschede road bridge to see what part it might have played in the accident. The bridge is supported by concrete pillars, which stand about 2 meters from the tracks. It's this proximity to the railway that becomes the new focus of inquiry. It helps to piece together the next sequence of events. About 3 minutes after the wheel breaks, ICE 884 reaches the Eschede road bridge at a speed of 200 kilometers per hour. The power car and coaches 1 and 2 pass under the bridge without touching it. But coach 3 is pushed outwards by the momentum of the train and slams directly into the pillars. ICE 884 crashes into the Eschede road bridge.
The third car was diverted over to the siding and swung out to the right, and at that time struck the supports for the bridge and knocked the supports out from under the bridge.
When coach 3 destroys the pillars, the bridge starts to collapse. Coach 4 clears the falling bridge, but catapults off the track and crashes into nearby trees. As coach 5 passes under the collapsing bridge, it's struck by tons of falling concrete, and the rear half is totally destroyed. Immediately behind her, the restaurant coach is crushed to a height of 15 centimeters by the falling bridge. The resulting debris now blocks the path of the remaining 6 coaches and the rear power coach, which, moving at almost 200 kilometers per hour, concertina into the wreckage. 101 people are killed in the crash at Eschede. It seems to be the result of a tragic chain of events. A broken wheel, some points, a road bridge, which combined to create the biggest disaster in the history of high-speed rail travel. If this is the case, if this is a 1,000,000-to-1 chance accident, then the reputation of the ICE as a safe train will remain intact. But in the next stage of the inquiry, investigators make a startling discovery that proves the accident could easily have been prevented. After the accident, the rim from the wheel in question is taken to the Fraunhofer Institute in Darmstadt, southwest Germany, for forensic testing. Investigators there are particularly interested in the wheels of this train because they are of a new design unique to the ICE. A traditional monoblock, or one-piece wheel, is made from a single, solid piece of steel. But a duoblock, or two-piece wheel, has an inner wheel surrounded by an outer rim. Sandwiched between are sections of rubber, designed to help absorb vibrations and provide a smoother ride. Scientists at the Fraunhofer Institute are now anxious to know whether there's an inherent fault in this type of wheel that could cause further accidents. Using sophisticated test rigs, they simulate a lifetime's wear in a matter of days. While examining the broken rim from the Eschede train crash, they make an alarming discovery. The wheel rim fractured through metal fatigue. In simple terms, fatigue occurs when a movement is repeated over and over again, causing a stress break at a weak point in the metal. A wheel on a train actually flexes slightly as it turns because of the massive load it's under supporting the moving train. These movements are minuscule, but the constant flexing of the metal can eventually, given enough usage, cause the wheel's destruction through metal fatigue. With a duo-block wheel, there's a layer of rubber between the wheel and the rim. The soft rubber allows the outer rim to flex much more than on a monoblock wheel. As the separate rim wears down through use, the flexing increases. Without thorough inspection, the wheel rim can become too thin, and a small defect can become a crack that eventually fractures, causing the outer rim to break away from the inner wheel, with devastating results. Today, Deutsche Bahn has removed the duo-block wheel Type 064 from service and replaced them with traditional monoblock wheels. They maintain that the wheels and the inspections met the standards required at the time, and that their engineers could not have predicted a wheel fracture. As of November 2002, Deutsche Bahn say they paid out 25 million euros in compensation to the victims' families and survivors of the crash. Since refitting monoblock wheels, Deutsche Bahn's ICE trains have clocked up millions of kilometers a year safely. And the popularity of high-speed rail travel worldwide continues to soar.